Welcome into Coach's Corner. I am your host, Lucas Kochevar, as always, and I'm back to greet you after a wonderful college football weekend. And ladies and gentlemen, we have made it to football season. We've made it to the Sunday NFL slate. We made it to the Thursday night NFL game. We made it the Monday night NFL game. And we made it also, of course, we're already there, the Saturday college football slate. We are so back. And I am so pumped. I'm so excited to bring these shows every week now, just because I get to talk football from beginning to end. And these shows will probably run long compared to what we were doing over the summer. But that is just because, first of all, we have our bets. We have a winner. We have a winning bet number that we, did last week. Our record was good in the college football slate. And I'm looking to have another good week. Not a ton of games I love, but we have those coming up. We have the NFL, obviously. I want to get into most of the games. I think some of them we can fly by. But there's a couple of games I really want to dive into. I also do that on lksportstalk.com. Shameless plug there. And, yeah, so let's get right into it. Let's go ahead. I'll go ahead and run through the bets that I had this past week. Just kind of running through it. Went 8-4 on the week. So positive. We doubled up the record. We're back in the win column, I believe. Did we just... I'm trying to remember now for the season record. 2. Yeah, we're up 2 games. We've won 2 more bets than, we have, last week, obviously. 2-4 was not what we wanted. But I knew we were coming back with a good solid plan this week. And boy, did we deliver. So, lock of the week was Texas Tech, Wyoming, over 52. It took overtime to get there. It was a fight. We clawed, we scraped by, but they managed to go to overtime, easily pushed us over that over. That was a big win. Wazoo minus 12 versus Colorado State was a slam dunk. Utah was a slam dunk. Nebraska, that was a hilarious slam dunk because they almost won that outright, but they ended up losing, of course. Tennessee, of course, knew they were going to win over Virginia. Iowa, that was never going over. Just a couple of the bets that we, were able to go through that were winners. But, of course, we have to look at our losers as well. And I think the biggest loser that we have to look at is Ohio State. I had them minus 30. They won by 20, but it was not a pretty 20. And it got me thinking about how Ohio State is, playing, how they're going to line up this year, and how all the talk is about Marvin Harrison Jr., Mecca Egbuka, I think is how you say it. I apologize, but they talk about all those guys, the running backs behind Williams, Travion Henderson, big names, but it felt like we never did really get that quarterback solution. Shout out Layla in the back, by the way. We never got that talk about the quarterback situation and how it was going to go. And Kyle McCord, ladies and gentlemen, I won't say he looked bad, but there wasn't a cohesion, there wasn't a fire, there wasn't an explosion of points at any point. It just felt like a slow burn of an offense. And in a conference that, I've talked up Michigan, I've talked up Penn State. Penn State was a winner for me as well last week, so shout out to them. Drew Aller is a star, ladies and gentlemen. Talking of those two teams and looking at this Ohio State team where people want to look for a bounce back because, coming off of what that game against Georgia was so great, they played so well. The wide receivers, like I said, it's defense has stars on it. They have the makings of it, but that quarterback position did not wow me Saturday. And, you could say that about other teams in the top there, Georgia being the one that I point to, although I think they looked more cohesive. I know it was a worse opponent, but, Georgia at least won by 48-7 and not, 30 or 23-3. It was not a very Ohio State, stomp on your throat Big Ten conference win over an Indiana team that should finish near the bottom of the conference. And so that was a big takeaway I had from the first week. When it comes to the team that won and is in that top spot there, but didn't do it in an impressive fashion. The other teams kind of handled business. Florida State was a big surprise, I'd say. Just not because they won the game against LSU, because of how they emasculated LSU. And frankly, I think that game was won in the trenches. I think Florida State's offensive line held up very well for Jordan Travis. Jordan Travis made great decisions, keeping the play alive when he needed to. His receivers are great, by the way. Huge guy, huge players. Like, Florida State should win the ACC. They should be in the college football playoff if they don't slip up. That just kind of is how it is at this point, especially with that resume-building win against LSU. But it was also their defensive line, dominated. Their defensive line, I looked up every time and felt like James Daniels was running for his life or was sacked. And, they impressed me. Florida State, I was like, I knew they were going to be good. I felt like they were going to be a good team, not a world beater like how they showed off against LSU. I thought it was an excellent performance from both sides of the ball with the trenches. And Florida State has those two areas of their defense and offense figured out, then I think they are a pretty, I won't say lock, but they should be a shoe-in of the ACC or championship and the college football playoff. But that was a big play. Colorado was a big story, but I don't give it that much thought because I think TCU was, dealt, I won't say dealt a bad card, but they were not the same TCU from last year. They were ranked they were ranked generously because of what they did last season, but that TCU team is not what it was last year. Chandler Morris, not a starting quarterback for a college Power 5 team, especially one that just came off of a championship. But Travis Hunter is incredible. Travis Hunter is like the closest thing to Shohei Ohtani I think we've seen in college football. Playing both sides of the ball as a receiver, getting over 100 yards while also, intercepting a pass on defense was unbelievable. And Shedeur Sanders, I think there's some rough work around the edges, but he gets the job done. He did it time after time against a very porous, like Swiss cheese at TCU defense, but they won the game. So it's like, balance that out. That's okay. That was a big story on Saturday, and I'm trying to think of what else. Clemson losing. Clemson, I kind of stuck to my guns where I said K. Klubnik is not the guy, and I think I was proven right, but I also think I was able to say now that Dabo might not be the guy either, and not in the sense that he's a bad college coach, but I don't think that he's a dynasty winning playoff or college football coach. I don't think he's up there in the echelon of Smart or Saban, which I think people want to do that because he has won multiple championships. But, of course, we have to remember the quarterbacks he had. Of course, Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence are some of the better NFL quarterbacks, so of course they were good in college in the way that they were and winning games consistently. And I think Dabo's starting to feel the effects of the NIL where he's not getting the same skill position players that he once did. The quarterback, obviously, K. Klubnik is not the guy. I told you that already. And DJ Ukulele, who's at Oregon State, who they kind of, I'd say, ran off, had a pretty good game. And I'm not going to say he's perfect either, but I don't know. Things seem a little fishy there in Clemson, and I think their downfall might be here right now. And I don't know. I'm very curious to see it happen. But that's really what I mainly want to talk about, college football. Off the top of my head there, that's what I can think of. So, why don't we go ahead and get ahead to this week, some bets that I love. And, there are some games, notable games, not a lot, but Alabama-Texas is the game of the week, marquee game. I don't think there's going to be anyone really tuned into anything else other than that game. It'll be exciting to watch for sure. Just because, two big brands. Texas is obviously coming to the SEC, so we'll see that game more times. And, last year was a fantastic game, and it was when Texas wasn't supposed to be as good as they are now. So, should be an exciting game there in Tuscaloosa, but, looking at the screen, looking what we have cooked up here already, I have it on, the games that I like, what I want to look at. So, starting off, Kansas -2 against Illinois. It's moved to -3 now. The number I had is 2, but, I like -3 as well. Illinois squeaked out with a win against Toledo last week. I'm not sure who Kansas played, but I think they did better. Obviously, they won. But Jalen Daniels was also out for Kansas last week, so if he's coming back healthy this week, he's an electric quarterback. He can, run the ball, pass the ball, do what you need to do, and I think he elevates that Kansas offense. And I'm not sure what Illinois, if they're ready at this point in the season. If this was like a bowl game, I would maybe like Illinois here plus the points, but starting off the season still, I think teams are trying to get their feet wet, figure out the quarterback situation in Illinois there, and I like Kansas -3, 2, whatever you want. Other game I have next up, Purdue -1 against Virginia Tech. Oh man, now that talk about a line movement. The line is moved so drastically from this afternoon. Regardless, though, Purdue +2.5 at Virginia Tech at 12 o'clock. I like this game a lot for Purdue. Purdue dropped a great game in its own right against Fresno State at home. And I think, it doesn't look great because it's one of those they pay to play games where Purdue ended up paying Fresno State to come in and beat them. But we have to remember Purdue's under a first-year head coach, new quarterback as well, as Aiden Connell just went to the draft. And it's, who is it? I know who the quarterback is. I remember seeing him. But regardless, it's a guy that I know, and I think he actually is a solid quarterback for them. But this is really more so, I do think Purdue's a better team than what they let on Saturday. Like, what happened to them was tough. Fresno State is a good team. But I also don't think Virginia Tech is very good. Virginia Tech I'd say they've fallen down from grace. And, I mean, they played Old Dominion on Saturday night. Great electric atmosphere. But it is a night game. And I think we have to realize 12 o'clock is really early for a lot of these college students. And although I do think that they care about Virginia Tech football more than I'm probably giving credit to them, I do think that 12 o'clock will make Virginia Tech, like their home crowd, kind of neutralized. But it'll be more hush-hush until the game is actually good or something. Or either way, like I said, I like Purdue here a lot and plus the points. Next one, let's see if the line has changed drastically for me here. And it has. Of course it has. Either way, Utah, I had Utah +1.5. Now it's Utah -7.5. Okay, maybe I should wait on picking these games. But regardless, I still am sticking to my guns here. That's why I loved this pick when they were plus money. I do still like it here at -7.5. Utah obviously came off of a big win against Florida last week. Baylor's coming off of a big loss against Texas State. And it's one of those where their quarterback got hurt in the process. Utah, I think, might be getting some of their guys back because even when they did beat Florida so bad, they were missing their starting quarterback and their best player, their tight end, Brent Kuth. So they get those two guys back, or at least one of the two, plus a number of other guys that they had out. Utah should be very much in this game. I think their style of play travels. It's kind of a Big 12 preview as well, similar to the SEC preview we're getting in Texas, Alabama, where Utah is joining the Big 12. So excited for this one, but yeah, give me Utah -7.5. Next game, I got some overs. We got Ole Miss at Tulane. Tulane is actually probably a better program than we give credit for just because they're not in a Power 5 conference. Ole Miss, obviously, we know how much of an offensive juggernaut they are. This is just one of those. This is similar to my, the bet I try and make every week where it's points, points, points. Ole Miss at Tulane, points, 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 points. I think this is going to be a shootout. I can't imagine both teams have stifling defenses. And I see the only way this over doesn't hit is if we get some Ole Miss, fourth down and 5 at the 20, and they go for it and don't get any points and miss out there. But I like this to go over a lot. Next, Iowa State over 36.5. I like this game a lot. Over is 36.5. That's such a low number for a college football game, and I know it's Iowa, the kings of unders. And I did just bet them under last week. But 36.5 is a ridiculously low number. If the score is 19-18, we hit that number. And, Iowa State is obviously getting in trouble for a lot of gambling stuff, but that doesn't mean I can't bet on them. So I'm betting on these two teams to cover that 36.5. It'll be riveting to see how slowly we can get to that over, but I like that one. Surprised this number hasn't shifted on me. Oregon minus 3.5 at Texas Tech. Maybe it's because it's a road game, and it's at night. Texas Tech just suffered a tough loss against Wyoming. It was one of those, they definitely came into the season, I think, higher expectations than than they should have had probably, and they're kind of feeling themselves, and they ended up losing that game in overtime. Now, it doesn't get any easier here against Oregon. Oregon beat a team 81-7 last week, so I think Oregon's offense is one of the best in the nation. Bo Nix is shocking me by being a competent quarterback, but I think Oregon easily covers that 3.5. I think they get a dominating win here on the road at Texas Tech. It's tough, but yeah, give me Oregon minus 3.5 here. Next one, this is a line that also has moved on me now. Wisconsin at Washington State. Over under is 59 now. I had it at 54.5, but I still like it here. I will still clamor for this one. I think this is going to be like last week. Wisconsin, I won't say broke out, but they didn't they did some things that I think were something we haven't seen from Wisconsin in a long time regarding their offense. So I think they can do that again. I think they can have a good offensive showing. I think Wazoo is obviously capable of running up the points. They did it last week against Colorado State. I think they can do that, not to the same degree, but I think they can do it all right. I feel confident in Washington State putting in their half of the over here. And then the next game I have, Auburn at California. Auburn is a minus 6.5 point favorite. Another one that's changed on me from Auburn minus 5. I still like Auburn here by a touchdown. Simply put, I obviously am not high on Cal. I think they're one of the worst programs. There's a lot of bad ones, but I think they're one of the worst in the Pac-12 at least. And, Auburn, I do think will get up for this game. I think Hugh Freeze will like to score some points. He did it last week. I think they might have. I don't think that they're like a sleeper. I can't see Auburn beating LSU, Alabama, and being like, oh wait, they're in the playoff. No, I don't see that. But this is an Auburn team that I do think can be frisky, and I think frisky teams do well against opponents that you like. This seems like an even matchup. The frisky teams will normally win that, and I think Auburn can win this one by 7. Then, lastly, we have the App State, North Carolina over 61. I really, 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 really like this over. Last year's game, I think, went 49-42, cleared it easily. I think we can get a similar number here. I know UNC's defense surprised me big time against South Carolina. They shut down, I won't even say shut down Spencer Rattler. They did their job in certain points. A very bend-don't-break performance, I think. And Drake May can score the ball, but like I said, I'm still not buying this UNC defense until I see it time and time again. But this will be, I'd say, a decent-sized test. If I had to bet the number here, I do like App State plus 15.5. They feel like a team that just kind of gives. They're the group of 5 team that gives every Power 5 team a challenge, and I don't know why anyone would put App State on their schedule because they are on the verge of a Power 5 bid, but they're not there. But I like this game to go over big time. Like I said, they did it last year. Why not do it again? And that's all I have. I'm curious if I'll change the numbers on these because, like I said, when I write these down, it's almost like this is my equivalent of putting the slips in, putting the bets in when I see them. And when I see them at the numbers that I get them, I feel like that's only fair that I keep those. And so I still will roll with, I still ride with the Utah 7.5, but, I'm going to keep the plus 1.5 that I have. So regardless, bet with caution if you are betting, but this is still the picks that I like. This is still what I would get behind. I think we're going to have a positive week. I feel good. I'm worried, but feel good because, like I said, not a ton of games that I love, to watch and to bet. So this is the handful I have. But with all that being said, Told you we would talk some football. I have the reigning Super Bowl champion jersey on. I'm not a fan or anything. I do just have my jerseys. That's if anyone knows me, you know I love my jerseys. I try and wear them as much as I can. That dog is eating a tennis ball. She is a mess. Either way, show goes on. Let's talk some games here. Let's run through this schedule here, the slate that we do have. Detroit at Kansas City as our opener on Thursday night. This is finally we can see what the Detroit Lions have been cooking all offseason. They had a fascinating pick in Jahmyr Gibbs. You know, they're running back the whole Jared Goff thing. They're doing that. And they did some adjusting to their defense with some, getting some secondary help, which was their weakest point. And then at Kansas City side, of course, we have Patrick Mahomes. Travis Kelce injured his knee. That was tough to see. We'll see if he's playing or not. I don't think he was ruled out yet, but regardless, Patrick Mahomes is all we get. Is like that's the crown jewel. That's what we love to see. So Patrick Mahomes is in there, and of course, we'll see how they fare against the Lions, the new look Lions. I was shocked when you look at Kansas City's schedule, they have a bunch of games they could have chosen for the opener. The fact that the league chose Detroit, I thought was absolutely fascinating. So I'm excited to watch that. I do like Kansas City minus 4.5. Moving on, we have Carolina at Atlanta. My Falcons, obviously going into the Desmond Ridder era. If we'll see how long that lasts, I think he's okay. I do think he's okay, but we'll see. Curious to see this. Also, Bryce Young. Bryce Young has terrorized me in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and so he'll see if he can do it again. Like I said, I'm very curious to see how he does, just because, O-line, all that stuff just seems shaky to me, but, we'll figure out whether Bryce Young, I think, is, ready to hit the ground running, or if he is a rookie quarterback. But, because, Atlanta defense isn't, obviously, a stronghold. It's not a wall back there, but they're still an okay team. So that'll be curious to watch. Houston and Baltimore. I don't know if there's much to say about this. Curious to see how C.J. Stroud does. I think that's what's fair to say here. C.J. Stroud obviously will be the story for the Texans this entire season. That's their only real appeal I have for them. And then Baltimore. I think this will be. It feels like Baltimore gets the good Week 1 matchup, so that way they come out and they just punch teams in the mouth, and everyone's like, "Oh, Baltimore!" And then we convince ourselves of Baltimore being a Super Bowl contender, which they could be hypothetically. I think they could be, but I'm reserving my takes until I see them play in the division because it's a tough division, and we move on to the Cincinnati-Cleveland game in their division. Like I said, I like both of these teams a lot. I think the fact that the spread is -1, +1 for Cleveland, I think that tells you a lot about how teams feel like, or how Vegas feels about Cleveland, Cincinnati. Obviously, Joe Burrow and company is the big headliner here. But Cleveland has a very good team. They have a lot of talented players with Nick Chubb, Amari Cooper. I kind of get into it on LK League Notes this week, lksportstalk.com, shameless plug. And, like I said, it's a game that I like, and I'm curious to see how it goes. But, give me Baltimore against one of these two, and then I think I'll be able to judge Baltimore better. Jacksonville at Indianapolis. The Anthony Richardson era begins in Indianapolis. I don't think Indy's won a home, or I don't think they won a season opener in 9 years. It might be even more jarring than that. But Indianapolis doesn't win Week 1, and they're a rebuilding team, let's be honest. And Jacksonville's supposed to be the next king, so this will have intrigue just to see how Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley form as a duo with the Jacksonville's defense. Their young guys are stepping up, because people forget Trayvon Walker, the first pick overall last year, was on Jacksonville, and he didn't do a lot, but it was kind of known that he was going to be more like developing that last year. So we'll see how they do. They have some interesting players, and I'm curious to see what Anthony Richardson looks like. Next, Tampa Bay at Minnesota. Sounds like a snooze fest because Baker Mayfield is awful, and the quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Justin Jefferson. That's all I'll say for Minnesota. Tennessee and New Orleans kind of gives off sleepy dad vibes where your dad's going to be asleep. What is she doing? The dog is stealing the show in the back. What are you doing? Crazy. Tennessee, New Orleans, sleepy dad vibes. You know, your dad is all excited for tailgating or waking up to watch his Aints, and he drinks too many beers, starts at 11 and passes out by 1 and doesn't wake up till the score where it's 17-13 Saints. I mean, it frankly is, like I said, not an appealing game. We'll see if Derek Carr is the answer for this New Orleans team who was desperate for a quarterback last year to step up. Tennessee, we'll see if Ryan Tannehill can hold on to his job. San Francisco at Pittsburgh. This is also in the LK League Notes preview to check that one out. See what I say about this game. Pittsburgh, I think, is going to be a very sleeper team for the playoffs. I have them in the wild card as of right now. And, the 49ers, I think, obviously the biggest, I don't say the biggest story, but the most intriguing team in the NFC just because is Brock Purdy going to be good? They just traded Trey Lance away. There's just questions on questions on questions regarding the 49ers. And on top of that, they have so much talent and they're a super exciting team. So very curious to see how they play, how they step up to the plate. And like I said, Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh has a lot of intrigue. She destroyed my bed back there. Boy. Arizona at Washington. PU. I won't even mention a word about Arizona. Washington, though, I'm very curious to see how Sam Howell plays. I'm curious to see what that offense looks like with Eric Bieniemy, the former Chiefs offensive coordinator there. That's all I got to say about that. Green Bay at Chicago. An NFC North rivalry, obviously, for years and years. I mentioned this in LK League Notes, so check that out. Wink, wink. Las Vegas at Denver. This is another PU game. This is the game where it's like your dad started when the game started at 1 o'clock drinking, enjoying his red zone, and he gets to the 4 o'clock slate and his TV won't pick up the game until it starts at 4:25, and for that reason, he goes nap. So he'll miss that entire game. He'll miss Russ doing absolutely nothing. He'll miss Jimmy Garoppolo doing nothing. Yeah, that's a nasty game. I don't think we'll learn anything about either team. Miami at the Chargers, LK League Notes special. Wink, wink. I do like this game a lot, though. Justin Herbert, Tua, sign me up. Then the last four, we get Philadelphia at New England. Obviously, the Super Bowl champion coming back. Or not Super Bowl champion, the Super Bowl runner-up coming back this year will be a big story, Super Bowl hangover. But Jalen Hurts and that offense should be absolutely humming. Against Bill Belichick should be, actually makes it an interesting chess match. But I think the game will be won when the New England offense steps on the field and does absolutely nothing. Because skill positions aren't great. Line isn't that good. And Mac Jones, I'm sorry, buddy. But, yeah. LA Rams at Seattle. This could be intriguing. Cooper Kupp is out. That's tough. That's a tough blow to the Rams already. I think this is a good test for Seattle, though. And it's like, are you serious? If Seattle blows out the Rams, I think we can be like, yeah, they are serious. If Seattle loses or I think barely squeaks by, it's like, okay, we're not sold on you still. Do something next week and maybe we can buy in. It's kind of a we'll see how you do game. And then the primetime games, we have Dallas at New York. I like this game. I think this will tell us a lot about the Giants. I think the Cowboys, if they win by a lot, I won't be shocked. That's kind of my thinking of where this game will go. But I think if the Giants fight to the end, I think maybe the Giants are better than we thought they were. Maybe they have improved from last year. There's elements here where I I just want to see what the Giants are this year. I'm so curious because they started off really hot last year and I think faded bad towards the back half. But they won a playoff game against the Vikings. So I don't know what to make of this Giants team. And frankly, Dallas is also what is Dallas? What are they? Are they a Super Bowl contender? We don't know. But I'm intrigued to see both these teams, how they're going to end up, how this season will open for both of these teams and what will they look at at the end of the year. I'm very intrigued by that. And then last but not least, we have Buffalo at New York Jets. So the MetLife field crew is really going to have their work cut out for them. But regardless, I think we get a very exciting game to end the weekend with the Bills and the Jets. And I like the Bills in this one, frankly. Just, like, if I'm being honest, it feels just like the Jets are getting way too much hype, which is always happens to a team. And the Bills aren't being talked about enough, I think. They were pushed last year very hard before the season started. They had the opening night game against the Rams and blew out the Rams. I don't think they have that same pressure this year. I think it's kind of cooled because people kind of remember what the end of the year was for them, and people like the Bengals over the Bills now. It's a popular pick, but the Bills still won 13 games, and I'm just not truly sold on this New York Jets team. I think the offense will be better, obviously, because the bar is in hell, but I do think that the Jets will be... I think they'll be slow to start. I think at them out of the gate, it would not shock me if they were not great and people started panicking and were like, oh, what's happening to the Jets? But I think they'll be fine. Just temper your expectations. Ooh, so that is your preview. That is the Week 1 NFL preview. That is the College Football Week 2 preview / looking back at the College Football Week. And we'll get a lot more, impressions about how this weekend went on next week's episode. Obviously, we'll get the whole NFL slate. We'll be able to make our super hot takes that don't make any sense and won't hold up. And we'll be able to, really judge whether Alabama is good or not. So I'm excited for that this weekend. And you know what? We're going to win all those bets. We're going to win. We're going to go undefeated. The week that I have an undefeated record in college football betting will be chef's kiss. But with that being said, I am your host, Luke's Coach of Art. As always, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the pod, check out both feeds. Why not pump the numbers? Make sure that you check out LK League Notes for on Friday for the weekly drop about how I feel about some of these games. I previewed it a little bit, wink, wink. And with that being said, make sure to share, family, friends, all that good stuff. Until next time, goodbye.